here's a stump. It's always good after your cut to evaluate what you just did. Make sure you're getting continuous feedback, especially as to the thickness of your hinge, and making sure you're getting the 10 or so percent of the diameter. I hesitate to say too much about this because I'm not an expert, and it's very dangerous work if it's not done very, very well. But I want to just put this video out there mainly so people are careful and seek good training, because this is not easy work. It's definitely the most dangerous work that I do on the farm, that most people would ever do on a farm or homestead, is dropping trees. And it's very important to do it well. This is a directional felling approach used here, which is necessary in most logging, most tree felling. And this is my hinge, 10% of overall diameter. It's much closer to one end than the other, so you have leverage with your wedges. Because this tree was leaning the other way, I needed to drop it against its lean. And I used 2 wedges to do that. One probably would have been fine. You do a bore cut after you establish your hinge, and you establish your face cut, which needs to be at least 70 to 80 degrees, if not more like 90 plus is the going thought lately. So you have to have a very open face cut to control the tree the whole way down with the hinge. It doesn't in practice work that way. I think it's one of the things that I think the game of logging, which is a very good set of courses to learn about this, has, that's a little more ideal than practical in the real world. Like most of the trees I've seen the instructors fall in that course, they control the tree, the hinge, most of the way down, but it tends to cut loose about here. And the idea is with that hinge, with the face cut being so open, that you control the tree all the way to the ground. It doesn't usually work out that way, maybe because I'm cutting in frozen wood a lot, which most people would be doing, because winter is the time to log. The reason this cut for my wedges is lower than the bore cut is because the bore cut I do higher or lower than this cut, which has the wedge in first, and I don't want to hit my wedge because they cost like $6 to $8 each. It's a waste with my chainsaw, and plus if you hit it, you can undo its ability to do what it needs to do for you. I'm clearing red pines here and trying to drop everything parallel and drop them at the edges, which is tricky. There's a lot of challenges to that for various reasons, like land undulation, standing dead snags that are really sketchy to cut down, so I'm mostly leaving them. They don't block much sunlight anyways. There's a red pine monoculture that was planted about 40 or so years ago, and it's just falling in on itself. It's not growing really much of any value compared to what we can grow here, which is plant a diverse polyculture of nut-bearing trees. We still will have hundreds and hundreds of red pines even after I fell these pines on an acre plus. There'll still be many, and we don't have any walnuts here though, except for those that we planted, or chestnuts or oaks, and that's what we'll be planting here. I've got maybe another 40 trees left to go or so. It's going well. All in all, very well. It's just very easy to get trees hung up in this situation, and you really don't want to start into that. I've got a couple hung up, but I think with the tractor, and some of them I can leave too. They're not in a precarious situation. People don't spend much time here, so it's not a big deal. But without equipment, you're not gonna be able to get them all on the ground unless you have perfect execution and perfect conditions usually, or you're just a ninja master, which I'm pretty good at this, but I'm not. I don't have decades of experience. I've been cutting trees for a little more than 10 years or so. Poorly for the first 5 years probably.
Also, I get some questions about what gear to carry into the woods, and that's always been changing a little bit for me here and there, but in the last year I've been cutting a lot of trees and kind of settled into this situation. So here's a belt that I carry, a wedge pouch. So my game of logging instructor had something like this. He had like the $100 and some odd version with everything in one rigid thing, but this was a lot cheaper. Get this stuff at Bailey's online and Madsen's. Those are really good. Madsen's is great. So is Bailey's. I found that 3 wedges gives me a lot more opportunity and solutions than 2, and having one short one in the mix actually I'm really liking lately, because the short one can go in on smaller trees and not jam against your hinge. 3 wedges allows you to get out of tricky situations that you can't get out of with 1, and even with 2. Sometimes you'll bottom out a wedge fully into the cut and you need more leverage. And so another wedge could help, but it doesn't give you more height. So you end up putting 1 wedge in and then putting a second and stacking them. You can stack them in a couple different ways. You can have 1 in, and then you can get this guy in and put another one in at this level and get more height, more width than you would otherwise. So 3 wedges, 1 short one. You got to keep them sharp. If they're not sharp, they can't get you out of tricky situations as easily. So I'll take them on the bandsaw because they get dulled if you bit them into a hinge or if you touch them with your saw. You know, plastic, so if you touch them with a saw, it's not the end of the world, like right there, and nick this guy. These are from Madsen's. You gotta have your scrunch with you. This is a good place to put it. This is nice and fast to get wedges in and out of. And then, you gotta have, obviously, a chainsaw file. Make sure it's the right size, of course. So I think this is 7/32. Yep. For a skip tooth round ground chain, which I use. By the way, I'm really loving a 16-inch bar on a steel 460, which is like a ludicrously tiny bar on a really powerful pro saw. Makes it even more powerful. There's only 20 teeth to sharpen, so it's fast, less maintenance, just more economical, safer. The whole thing's lighter, just higher performance. Most people, I think, use bigger bars than you really need. You can cut down a 26-inch, 30-inch tree pretty easily with a 16-inch bar, and none of the ones I'm cutting down are that big. Flat file, of course, for pruning your raker teeth off, your depth teeth, which you have to do, at least every other filing, depending how much you're taking off. And then here's your depth gauge. I think this is from Bailey's. Really important for the flat file to go on top of, which exposes your raker. And then I've been carrying a T27, a Torx 27, because that's what you need to get some stuff off. It's arguable that you're going to need this in the field, because if you need this in the field, you're probably going to need like a recoil, not a recoil spring, but your starter pull string. But it's a place to carry it. It's in one spot then for me. There is another reason, though, I could use it. I'm forgetting what it is now, but I once needed it in the woods, and so I carry it. It's not very heavy. That's probably a little bit optional. This isn't as optional, so the carb, very small screwdriver, which you can adjust your carb. You shouldn't need to do this in the woods, but if you do, it doesn't weigh much. Saves your trip. Depends where you're logging, too. If you're just cutting firewood right by your shop, you don't need any of this, really, except you should have a wedge always near you. And then I carry a Fiskars lightweight axe that I keep really sharp, because that can be carrying. And, of course, Chaps, wraparound Chaps. That's really key. I got these Chaps after my gamma logging course because they talked about how my older Chaps, which are 15 years old, might not be working so well anymore. They wear out, and then also they weren't as wraparound. And I know a guy who knows a guy who died recently just by nipping his leg back here with the saw. It's easy to do, and bled out. Couldn't get to help before he bled out. And so then also carry this. The Gamma Logging course instructor really recommended Israeli trauma kit. Can save your life. Doesn't weigh much. They actually make these pockets for these, apparently. That's what they're for. They're not big enough to hold a wedge. So yeah, that's the deal. You can put another wedge in here. I'm not exactly sure what that pocket's for. It's not big enough for the trauma kit, and also I don't want that trauma kit damaged. So again, wrap around. These aren't chainsaw boots. That's definitely a little bit of a safety violation. My chainsaw boots are really slippery and I haven't figured out how to get caulks in them. which are spikes, and they're super cold too. So that's not ideal. You want steel-toed boots, ideally, that are cut-proof. But these cover pretty low. Most common injury is a left knee, apparently, from a chainsaw. You just nip it by mistake. Can't nip yourself with a chainsaw. Things go bad real fast.